Happy to be joined by UFC bantamweight contender Cory Sandhagen, who takes on Deiveson Figueiredo in the UFC Des Moines, Iowa main event, May 3rd. Cory, you had tweeted, finally. What did you mean exactly by that? Finally, because it's been a minute since you last fought, or did it take a while to get this fight together? Because I know we kind of heard about it like 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I had been asking to fight pretty quickly after my last fight that I had. That was all the way in August now. And yeah, I guess the fight did take a little bit of a minute to put together. We were kind of looking at the March 8th date, and then something kind of happened, I think, on Figgy's end where they just needed to move it. So we moved it, and now we're going to be the main event, and that's cool. And yeah, I guess it took a little bit to put together, but yeah, I just feel like it's been a really long time since I fought, which sucks.
Yeah. And you said, so this was maybe going to be a 3-round fight?
Yeah, they were trying to put us on the pay-per-view card in March, and yeah, it just didn't work out. So now it's 5-rounder, which I like that too. So
yeah, I was going to ask because I'm sure you wanted to fight sooner, so obviously you would have been down for March, but 5 rounds, you prefer that?
Yeah, I like 5 rounds against Figgy. I think that I got a pretty good gas tank for 5 rounds now. I'm used to it. I know how to, work all of the like strategic pieces that a 5-round fight takes. And yeah, I think that Figgy fades a little bit in his fights, and I think that 5 rounds definitely favors me.
Yeah, and this is going to be like your, 7th or 8th fight in a row that's a 5-round fight, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably about that. I think this will be either my 6th or 7th main event out of like 14 or 15 UFC fights. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I'm sure it's a little bit less work in training camp when you're training for 3 rounds, but the way you fight and based off of what you just said about Figueiredo, I'm assuming you're down to keep taking these 5-round fights, right? Especially that you're aiming for the title.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. Honestly, getting ready for him is a pain in the ass. Like it's way harder than a 3-round fight. Fighting for 25 minutes is like significantly harder than fighting for 15 minutes. So, I mean, it's way harder, but I kind of like things to be harder because I like trust myself to handle hard things more than I kind of trust my opponents to. So I feel like it's kind of an advantage for myself.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned before on your YouTube channel that Figueiredo turned you down for December. Is that correct? Were they trying to make this fight way earlier?
I think they were just trying to get me, I think, anything in December because I was like, hey guys, like I just had the injury. I was out for an entire year. Like I'm not trying to do that again. So can you guys like throw me on another card this year? And then they were trying to do us, but then I think that that's around the same time that they booked Figgy and Jan. So it didn't go that way. And then they had like a couple other options too, but I don't think anyone said yes or they were booked or so. I don't know. Something happened. I got a 2-week long memory, so anything past 2 weeks ago is pretty much blur.
All right, now I know you're always down to fight everybody, but happy with Figueiredo? Is this kind of the fight that you're happy with?
Yeah, I'm happy with this fight. It makes sense. I mean, 4 and 5 guy going against each other. I don't really know what they're gonna do with Jan and Umar, the winners of the guys that faced me and Figgy, but my guess is that they're probably gonna match those guys and then do Merab and O'Malley. I think is kind of like I guess the word on the internet that I keep seeing. So yeah, I guess I like the fight a lot. I think that I have a lot of advantages going into this fight against Figgy. I think that I've grown so much as a fighter, and I lost a close one against a guy that lost a close one to the champ. So I still don't think that I'm very far off from the belt by any means. I still think that I could be 1 or 2 fights away for sure. I'm the only guy that hasn't fought Merab. That's kind of, I think, going to be in the talks here pretty soon. And then I also think, too, that the entire world wants to see me and O'Malley fight each other, and they've been kind of begging for that fight. So, I mean, that's one that I definitely want, too. So, yeah, I think that this year is going to be a really good year for me. Hopefully I'll get in 3 fights, and one of them will be a championship fight. And that might be a little optimistic, but that's what I'm going to shoot for. And yeah. I'm just excited to get back in. I think that I'm going to look great against a guy like Figgy. I do really well against guys that are like hunting for a shot to finish the fight. Whether with Figgy you have to worry about submission and knockout, but I do really well against those guys, and I think that it's going to be a fight where I can look really dynamic and put on a really masterful performance.
You mentioned O'Malley, and that was a guy that you called out, and a lot of fans rallied behind that and were excited about the possibility of that. But like you said, it seems like the word is that he's going to rematch Merab. Are you surprised to see that, considering the performance he had against Merab, he just underwent surgery, that's the direction the UFC is going?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think we all know why, like O'Malley has a really big following, that's the reason. Like Umar and Merab's fight was much closer than O'Malley and Merab's fight. So, I mean, if you were going to give a rematch to anyone, you'd probably give it to the guy that was closer if it was just like pen and paper, what made sense. But there's like a lot of things that go into the sport, as you know, and being more famous than other people is one of them. And Sean O'Malley has that leverage over everybody. And good on him. Like he did he worked really hard in order to gain that. And so I'm not going to hate on him for it. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely why.
And judging by the first fight, I mean, outside of the body kick that O'Malley had late in the fight, it seemed like Merab was in control. Do you see a scenario where things could go differently in a rematch, or do you feel like it would play out the same way?
I mean, I think it's so funny because like that's like literally the only thing that O'Malley scored that was pretty significant the entire fight. And it was like way at the end, and I don't know. I just think that that's funny, but because a lot of people are talking about like the one body kick, it's like, dude, you lost like the entire rest of the fight. But I suppose it was a fairly like you can make an argument, but the vibe of that fight to me, if you ask me, was that O'Malley was losing and he was the one not in control of that fight. But I mean, I definitely could see a situation where O'Malley comes back and he does really well. I mean, I love underdog stories, and I'm assuming that O'Malley will probably be the underdog. So I love rooting for an underdog. So maybe O'Malley will do well. But I mean, it's hard for me to imagine the fight going too different than the first one. But also at the same time, the guy that kind of has the puncher's chance, because I think that Merab wins a lot of other places. The guy that has the puncher's chance, obviously their ability to knock the person out goes up if you give them another 25 minutes to try to figure out how to do so. So, yeah, I mean, that it's definitely an advantage for O'Malley going into this fight.
And Merab goes on to fight Umar. I know you had predicted that Umar would win. It was a close fight at the end of the day. I had Merab winning. But it was a close fight. I think people get a little too excited at the idea of a Nurmagomedov losing. So I think that was kind of more the reaction. But it was, at the end of the day, a close fight. What did you make of the fight? And were you surprised that Merab was able to win?
It was a phenomenal fight. Yeah, I mean, Merab surprised me a lot. Kind of, I knew that it was going to be close for sure. I mean, I definitely think that Umar has really good skills. And Merab has phenomenal skills too. They're just not in the area that fans like, which is striking. But his grappling is like phenomenal, and his conditioning is phenomenal. And he kind of finds his way to be an entertaining guy, which is cool too. So good on Merab for all of that stuff. But I mean, as far as like a dynamic, fun striker to watch, Umar's definitely that. So and that's kind of who I find to be more appealing to watch also. So I kind of wanted Umar to win that for that reason also. But yeah, I mean, Merab did a great job. I thought that the fight was pretty close. But when it's like Umar was dead tired after like midway through the third round, things really started to show big time in Umar. And Merab's just got gas tank. What can you do about a guy like that? You kind of just got to Umar did everything that he could. I feel like he defended the shots great. He striked real well. Just Merab can keep a pace that people can't hold.
And you mentioned that Merab has fought the kind of majority of the top five, not you. So what do you make of Merab as a champion? And stylistically, how do you feel like you match up against him?
Yeah, I think Merab is, I mean, Merab's a fine champion. I think that, yeah. I don't know. I guess I really don't think too much about what Merab is as a champion from like a fan standpoint, but I think Merab's super skilled. I mean, he's on like a 13 fight win streak, so that's like that. You don't just oops your way into winning 13 fights. You have to be very good in order to do that. So yeah, Merab's obviously one of the best guys in the sport right now, and I think if me and him fight, it will be a really interesting fight. You know, like I think that I can win that fight for sure. I think that I can be able to control the space a lot better than, or like similar to the way that O'Malley was, but I'm just a way better wrestler than O'Malley is, offensively and defensively. Um, I hit harder now. I'm very athletic. I didn't get to show a lot of like the new things that I've been working on in my last one because Umar was wrestling the shit out of me so much. Uh, but but yeah, I mean, I think that I do awesome against Merab. I think also that we've kind of seen him fight everyone else that there is to kind of fight. He beat Petr Yan pretty decisively. He beat O'Malley pretty decisively. He beat Umar. It was close, but he definitely won the fight. So, I mean, I go out and I beat Figgy really well. I don't really see a situation where you can't at least understand the argument that I should be fighting for the belt next.
And we talk about, all these 5-round fights that you've been part of. Do you think cardio is really the key to beating Merab? Obviously, he's got skills too. You're not going to win just off of cardio, right? Like the way he manages his pace, mixing in the striking and the grappling and everything. But do you feel like kind of that's the key that most of these guys have been missing, that maybe they haven't been able to keep up with his pace over the course of 5 rounds?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that that's his superpower, though. That's like he has a cardio that like you can't achieve. You know what I mean? Like that's like you can do things to slow him down, but trying to match Merab in that is going to be difficult. Merab's not a very fast twitch guy though either, so he's not like scary to stand in front of. You know, like he's just doesn't have that suddenness that other fast twitch guys have, like myself or like an O'Malley or someone. So, I mean, he's a different type of athlete. I think in order to beat Merab, you have to like really stand your ground and just like fight that fucking guy and keep him the fuck off of you. You can't like just move your feet the entire round or the entire fight. That's Umar tried that. O'Malley tried that. That's not going to work. Jan did an okay job of standing his ground, but Jan just has a problem with doing two things at once. He's like he kind of reminds me of myself a little bit in the way that he has to, like, he does a really good job of being like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And that's what makes him make really, really good reads all the time. But once you start making things jump from one to the other, Jan, you can kind of see start to like struggle with that. So while Jan was holding his ground a little bit, Merab was definitely like mixing things up to the point where Jan kind of couldn't keep up anymore. And I kind of have a brain that can jump around big time for all the good and the bad of that in my life. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's how you beat Merab is you just like you have to fight him back and you can't just let him bully you, and you have to just be ready for 1,000 shots to come.
You mentioned Jan. Obviously, he was able to rebound and snap his losing skid by beating Figueiredo. All 5 rounds, I believe, he's won. Figueiredo started off good at bantamweight, and then until he ran into Jan. What did you kind of make of Figueiredo's performance, and did you see something in that fight that kind of opened your eyes going into your matchup now?
Yeah, I mean, Figueiredo beat, who did he beat in the division? He beat Cheeto and Font in his
and Cody
fight, Jan. And then,
Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, so, I mean, Cheeto and Font aren't the best wrestlers in the world, and Figgy was able to wrestle them. He wasn't able to wrestle Jan, and that's kind of been the way that Figgy's been showing at 135 at least, that's how he's going to try to win. He doesn't really get the luxury of being like a big bully in this weight class, which I think he really counted on when he was at 125, where he could march people down and all of that stuff. But the guys at 135 are bigger than he is, and I'm certainly much bigger than he is and much longer and just like a much wider frame than he is. So, I mean, he's probably going to try to wrestle, which isn't going to work. And then he's going to be stuck striking with me. And I think that that's just going to be a really, tough 25 minutes for him.
And you mentioned earlier that you feel like an impressive showing against Figueiredo, that you can jump right into title contention. I know Jan and Umar are there. We don't know what they're going to do with them, whether they're going to match them up or not. But I think the UFC going the direction with Merab and Sean O'Malley, outside of the obvious reasons of O'Malley's star power, kind of shows that there isn't that, at least they don't see that clear-cut number one contender, right? So do you feel that an impressive showing against Figueiredo, you can jump in there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jan won, I think he beat Song before that one, but before that, he had lost like 3 in a row or something. I lost a close fight to Umar. That was definitely winnable. It sucks to lose, but there's like ways to lose, and like not losing that much stock is like not the worst way to lose in the world. So I definitely feel like I didn't lose a lot of stock in that fight. It's a fight that if I fix a few things, I definitely could have won. And then, like I said, Umar just had that fight with Merab and almost won that one against Merab too. So you take that into account, and then you take into account that whether Merab or O'Malley win, I'm the only guy that hasn't fought Merab kind of in the top 5. And then O'Malley is someone that people have been begging to have me and him fight for a really long time. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely think that the way that I think that I can beat Figgy, I'm pretty sure in my head, is going to be a performance that speaks very loudly to me getting a title shot next.
And let's cap off with this. Obviously, you've been chomping at the bit to return. Didn't get to fight all the way until May. How do you see the rest of your year panning out? Are you hoping to try maybe to squeeze in 3 fights if that's possible? I know it's a short frame, but what are your plans?
Yeah, the more the merrier. I'm getting old now, you know, and I'm going to be 33 in a couple weeks. I want somewhere between 8 and 10 more fights before I'm out of here. And yeah, I want to rattle off as many as I can. It kind of sucks because it took me so long to actually start enjoying fighting, like the actual like performance piece of fighting. It used to like scare me, but now like the last, I don't know, like 10 fights that um, I've had like a blast, you know, especially being the main event. Like that's really fun. You get to fight for 5 rounds. That's really fun. You get to be the guy that like caps off the night, which is fun. And the sport is growing super big right now. So I'm enjoying just fighting in the UFC. Like that's really fun. I've always loved training. That's never been a problem. But yeah, I'm really enjoying fighting now. So I want to do it as often as I can, where I can't say that was the case maybe, you know, 5 or 10 years ago.
That's interesting because you've got 14 UFC fights, I believe. What changed? What was the turning point for you that made you start enjoying this?
I think it just takes time. Like, training is like what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I kind of told myself even before I got signed to the UFC, I was like, man, like whether I make a bunch of money in this or not, I just kind of want to be at the gym every day and train. And like the physical part, I like the physical part. I like the figuring stuff out, how fighting works is really fun for me. So that was always super fun to me. And I was like, why would I fight? You know, but I don't know. I don't really know when I guess it turned around. I just kind of started to like it more and more as I got more comfortable in there, and I started to understand the performance piece of competing. And I'm not very good at things until I understand them really well. And so until I like reach a certain level of understanding, I feel like I don't know anything about anything. So I feel like I just probably reached a level of understanding where I'm like, oh, okay, that's how I do this well. And once I hit that point, I just really started enjoying the performance piece. It wasn't as scary, you know?
Yeah, oh, interesting stuff. Well, Cory, it's always a pleasure to catch up. I appreciate you doing this. Looking forward to your return and best of luck on May 3rd.
Cool. Thanks. Later.